Pope is supposed to be infallible, untouchable, guided by divine will, answerable to God and God alone. But what if that wasn't true? What if emperors and empresses could just remove him? What if the highest position in Christendom wasn't a position of power at all, but a position of vulnerability? What if being Pope didn't protect you? It made you a target. Throughout history, popes didn't just die in office. They were deposed, removed by force, kidnapped, exiled, imprisoned, forced to flee Rome and never return. Some were removed by emperors who wanted to control the church. Some were removed by empresses willing to destroy anyone who wouldn't obey. Some were removed by cardinals and nobles fighting for power. And the worst part? The church had no way to stop it. The Pope's spiritual authority meant nothing against military force. His connection to God didn't protect him from human hands. This is the story of popes who lost everything, who were dragged from power not by God's will, but by imperial decree, who learned that in medieval Rome, the throne of Peter wasn't a throne at all, it was a target. Drop a comment right now. If you were Pope and an emperor showed up with an army to depose you, would you fight or surrender? And tell me your location and what time it is, because I want to know who's watching this and thinking about institutional power versus force. Part 1. The first Pope to be dragged from power. The year is 536. The Byzantine Empire controls Rome. The Emperor Justinian rules from Constantinople. But in Rome, there's someone he can't fully control. Pope Silverius. Silverius is the son of a previous pope. He's qualified. He's spiritual. He's also completely naive about how power actually works. Justinian wants to promote a certain theological position. He has bishops he wants appointed. He wants a pope who will obey imperial will without question. Silverius refuses. He won't approve Justinian's bishop nominations. He won't bend to imperial pressure. So Justinian sends his representative, the Empress Theodora. Theodora is ruthless. She's not interested in theological debate. She's not interested in the Pope's spiritual authority. She wants obedience. In March 537, less than a year into Silverius's papacy, Theodora orders him captured. The Pope is seized. He's dragged from Rome. He's removed from his position of authority. Silverius is taken into exile. Kidnapped. A prisoner of imperial power. Theodora installs her own candidate as Pope, a man named Vigilius, who will do exactly what the Empress wants. And Silverius? He disappears into exile, stripped of his title, his authority, his position. This is the first documented case of a pope being forcibly deposed. Not removed by the church. Removed by an emperor. By imperial power overriding papal authority. And it's the beginning of a pattern that will repeat for centuries, emperors deciding popes are inconvenient and simply removing them. Part 2. Jump forward 120 years. Pope Martin I is elected in 649. He takes office during a period of intense theological conflict. The emperor in Constantinople wants to promote a heretical position called monothelitism, the idea that Christ had only one will. Pope Martin I believes this is heresy. It contradicts church doctrine. It's a fundamental theological mistake. So Martin refuses to accept it. He holds synods. He writes against the heresy. He uses his papal authority to say no. The emperor is wrong. The church will not accept this. The emperor, Constance II, is not accustomed to being told no, especially not by a pope. In 653, Constance II decides Pope Martin I has to go. He orders Martin arrested. The pope is dragged from his office. He's forced to Rome, placed on a ship, and transported to Constantinople, the imperial capital. He's brought before the emperor in chains. Martin is condemned. He's tortured. He's humiliated. An elderly pope, imprisoned by imperial power, abused for refusing to bend to the emperor's will. Then Martin is exiled, sent to the Crimea, the farthest reaches of the Byzantine Empire. A death sentence, essentially. The Crimea is a frozen wasteland where no one survives for long. Martin is imprisoned there. He's mistreated. He's neglected. He's left to die. And he does. On September 16th, 656, Pope Martin I dies in captivity. He's the last pope to die as a martyr, not killed by pagan emperors persecuting Christianity, but killed by a Christian emperor punishing a pope for refusing to obey imperial theology. Martin I is later canonized as a saint. But his canonization doesn't change the historical fact. He was deposed, kidnapped, exiled, tortured, and killed because he wouldn't compromise. He chose his faith over his survival, and the emperor made sure he paid the price. Part 3. The worst pope who couldn't be stopped. Now we shift gears. We move from popes being deposed for principle to a pope being deposed for incompetence. His name is Benedict IX, and he's one of the worst popes in history. Benedict IX is elected in 1032 at approximately 12 years old. His father bribed the cardinal. His family installed him as a child. He's unqualified, inexperienced, and completely unprepared for the papacy. What follows is described by historians as the lowest point in papal history. Benedict uses his position to satisfy his own depravities. He's violent. He's corrupt. He ordains unqualified people for money. He conducts himself in ways so scandalous that even medieval chroniclers, men who've seen brutality as daily life, are horrified. The people of Rome can't take it anymore. They rise up. They forcibly remove Benedict from power and drive him out of the city. For a moment there's relief. Benedict is gone. Then he regroups, he gathers forces, he marches back into Rome with troops. He violently reclaims the papacy. He overthrows the pope who replaced him, Sylvester III, and reinstalls himself. Rome is now at war with itself. 2 popes, 2 claimants, 2 sets of supporters. The chaos is so complete, the situation so untenable, that an emperor has to step in. Emperor Henry III of Germany rides to Rome. He takes control of the situation, and he does something radical. He deposes all 3 claimants. Benedict IX is removed, Sylvester III is removed. Gregory VI, who bought the papacy from Benedict by bribing him, is also removed. All 3 are deposed, all 3 are exiled. But here's the thing about Benedict IX. He doesn't go quietly. After Henry III leaves Rome, Benedict returns again, trying to reclaim the papacy for a 3rd time. It takes another imperial intervention. Finally, in 1048, Henry III returns and permanently removes Benedict IX from power. Benedict is exiled to a monastery, where he finally spends his remaining years doing penance. Benedict IX is the only pope to hold the papacy 3 separate times. He's deposed multiple times. He's the embodiment of institutional chaos, a pope so corrupt, so destructive, that multiple emperors have to intervene to remove him. Part 4. The Emperor who decided who the Pope was. Emperor Otto I had absolute power in Rome. He could install popes, he could remove them, he could reshape the papacy according to his will. In 964, Otto decides that Pope Benedict V is no longer acceptable. For political reasons, for practical reasons. It doesn't really matter why, Otto decides, and that's enough. Otto orders Benedict V deposed, removed from power. The Pope is forced to submit. What's notable about Benedict V's deposition is that he doesn't fight back. He doesn't resist. He refuses to defend himself against Otto's charges. Because in medieval Rome, you can't fight the emperor. You can't resist. You can only submit. Otto removes Benedict III from Rome, takes him prisoner, and eventually exile him to Germany. The message is clear. The emperor owns the papacy. The Pope is not infallible. The Pope is not untouchable. The Pope serves at the emperor's pleasure. Part 5. The council that deposed 3 popes at once. We've already told this story partially, the Council of Constance in 1415, where 3 popes claimed legitimacy and needed to be removed. But it's worth returning to because it shows the ultimate degradation of papal power. There are 3 claimants: Gregory C. in Rome, Benedict C. in Avignon, and John XC in Pisa. All three claim to be the legitimate pope. All three have cardinals supporting them. All three have nations backing them. The Church cannot function with three popes. The confusion is absolute. The scandal is complete. So the Council of Constance convenes, and it issues a decree all three papal claimants are deposed. Not one. 3. Gregory C. actually resigns voluntarily, recognizing that the Church needs unity more than he needs power. But Benedict refuses to resign. John resists, so they're forcibly deposed, removed by conciliar authority. Their claims to the papacy are annulled. The symbolism is devastating. A council of bishops has just deposed 3 popes. The pope's authority, their claim to be infallible leaders of the Church, has been overridden by a council. From this moment forward, councils become more powerful than popes. The authority structure of the Church shifts. And it all happened because popes were treated like pieces on a chessboard, like they could be deposited, moved around, and removed whenever it was convenient. Part 6. Why depositions matter. When we look at the history of papal depositions, we see a consistent pattern. Popes have no actual power when faced with force. Not one of them, from Silverius to Martin to Benedict to Gregory, successfully resists deposition. Not one of them can invoke divine authority to stop an emperor. Not one of them can use spiritual power to overcome military might. This reveals something fundamental. The Pope's authority is only real when backed by political and military power. Remove that support, and the Pope becomes just a man. Vulnerable, movable, disposable. Silverius loses because he defies an empress with military backing. Martin loses because he defies an emperor with an army. Benedict loses because he's incompetent and no one will protect him. Benedict V loses because an emperor decides he's no longer useful. The 3 popes at Constance lose because a council decides they're all illegitimate. In every case, the result is the same. The Pope's will does not matter. The Church's institutional authority does not matter. Only power matters. And this has a profound effect on how the Church develops. It's why the Church, after centuries of being pushed around by emperors, eventually builds systems to prevent that from happening again. It's why papal elections become more rigorous. Why the Church develops canon law that makes depositions theoretically impossible. Why the institution builds walls to prevent emperors from ever having that much control again. The depositions of popes aren't just historical oddities, they're the crucible in which the modern Church is forged. The deposition that never happened again. After the Council of Constance in 1415, popes were never forcibly deposed again. Not once. The emperor's power over the Church was broken. Conciliar authority was limited. Papal supremacy was reasserted. The Church learned its lesson. Never again will a pope be removed by force. Never again will an emperor be able to dictate who the pope is. Is this because popes became infallible and untouchable? No. It's because the Church built institutions strong enough to resist being pushed around. It's because after centuries of depositions, the Church realized we need to make sure this never happens again. So they did. And for 600 years, no pope has been forcibly deposed. But the memory of those depositions, of popes dragged from power, exiled, imprisoned, humiliated, never went away. Because they're a reminder that power is fragile, that institutions are only as strong as their ability to resist force. That authority, even spiritual authority, needs protection. From Silverius in 536 to the 3 popes at Constance in 1415, we see a consistent story, popes being removed by force when they became inconvenient. Silverius refused to obey an empress. He was deposed. Martin refused to accept heretical theology. He was tortured and exiled. Benedict IX was too corrupt to function. He was removed multiple times. Benedict V displeased an emperor. He was deposed. The 3 popes at Constance had lost all credibility. They were all removed. In each case, the pope's spiritual authority, his claim to be God's representative on earth, meant nothing against force, against will, against power. The Church survived these depositions. The papacy survived. But something changed. The Church realized that spiritual authority alone isn't enough. You need institutions. You need rules. You need protection. That's the lesson of papal depositions. Power is everything. And once you learn that, you build systems to make sure you never lose power again. If you found this exploration of institutional fragility fascinating, hit subscribe. History is written by the powerful, but sometimes the powerful get removed too. Thanks for watching.